bench Stroud at halftime?
Well, first of all, and with all due respect to your Patriots, to me, this loss was on C.J. Stroud. Like, if they get decent quarterback play, I think they win. I mean, that
just
defense
doesn't throw the pick six.
Yeah, right. Well, that would have taken 7 off the board, obviously. But I just think he has to wear this. So as far as the question, it's tough for me because I think I texted you guys he might get benched like in the second quarter. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about Trevor Lawrence and his first playoff game, how he threw 4 picks in the first half, 3 in the first quarter, and then, of course, came back with the 3 touchdowns in the second half, and they won. So I thought, okay, maybe, that could happen. But honestly, I think in that moment, I would have benched him. And it doesn't mean he wouldn't have entered the next week or next season as my starter in training camp. But at that moment, I think I'd have benched him. They went 3-0 with Davis Mills as the starter. They beat Buffalo and Jacksonville. He had 5 touchdowns, a pick. I'm not saying he's great, but I just needed somebody not to turn the ball over. And so I probably would have benched him.
And I would just, before you go, Coach,
yeah, sure.
the Trevor comp is a great example of a guy who could have that bad of a half and rebound. What would have informed me on this is the previous week.
Yeah.
Last week, CJ was not quite as bad, but he was, he was turning the ball over a bunch in that game as well to lead into it.
Yeah, so I do think the Trevor Lawrence part of it came into the equation. And then when they did come out in the second half, the very first drive, they have a nice drive and they kick a field goal. Then New England turns the ball over. They have another good drive, and the running back fumbles the ball. So it's not really on Stroud there, so they have a chance there. And then going into the fourth quarter, if they score a touchdown, they take the lead. I think if he had come out in that first drive, they hadn't gotten anything done at all, maybe that's where he would have pulled the trigger. But the fact that they got that field goal and then going into the fourth quarter, you're only down by a score. He's been your guy, and you say that you believe in him to have yanked him in the fourth quarter. Now, all that being said, there was not a lot of redeeming throws in that where you're watching the game going, oh, he's got his fastball. I mean, he didn't have any.
Right. Felt like he could have had 7 picks.
It's evident this was not a standout performance for C.J. Stroud. In these specific conditions, it was always going to present a significant challenge for him. His style is that of a precise touch passer, and in such adverse, cold, and snowy weather, you simply aren't going to witness his optimal form. That reality could indicate a longer-term concern, but for this particular outing, his best version was inevitably compromised. However, we must also acknowledge the need for improved decision-making from him in these circumstances. I've been a defender of C.J. Stroud over the past few seasons. I maintain that he possesses the potential to reach an elite level. I believe he can develop into a phenomenal playmaker, operating from within the pocket, delivering beautifully accurate throws. My conviction that he can ascend to the upper echelon of quarterbacks remains firm. I feel it intuitively. I've also consistently highlighted the context surrounding him, particularly the state of his offensive line, which has been abysmal. Many discuss the Chargers' poor offensive line, which is indeed bad, but Houston's unit is arguably worse. Marginally so, perhaps only a percentage point better, illustrating just how severe the issue is. I'm not assigning the loss solely to the offensive line. My point is, I would simply prefer to evaluate CJ in a more controlled, stable environment. We can draw comparisons to Davis Mills and other quarterbacks, which is a valid exercise. In fact, Davis Mills' performance in relief highlights a critical area C.J. Stroud must refine: game management. The ability to manage a game effectively and make prudent decisions is paramount. I find myself reiterating this point constantly, and while it may feel repetitive, its importance demands repetition. Our collective fascination is so intensely focused on the magical, breathtaking, highlight reel plays. Take Caleb Williams' unbelievable throw, for instance. It was extraordinary, a moment of sheer brilliance. Yet ultimately, it did not culminate in a victory or a Super Bowl. The capacity to manage a game is indispensable. Consider Jalen Hurts as perhaps the most recent prime example of this principle. He has authored spectacular plays like a 44-yard touchdown run, yet he has also demonstrated masterful game management at crucial junctures, such as during their playoff run against the Green Bay Packers. In that game, he didn't produce eye-popping stats. Some criticized a modest passing yardage total, but he managed the game flawlessly. He avoided turnovers, played intelligently and strategically, and protected the football. Jordan Love, in contrast, committed turnovers, and the Packers lost. I repeatedly told Packers fans that if their quarterback had managed the game with Hurts' level of composure and care, they might have emerged victorious. That is precisely the situation the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud could have found themselves in. You must know how to manage games. It is a non-negotiable skill. I am considerably less forgiving of deficiencies in this particular area, the lapses in decision-making. As the commentator noted, there reached a point where it seemed Stroud was simply launching the ball and hoping for a positive outcome. That is an untenable position, and it's an approach he doesn't need to resort to, especially when cognizant of how formidable his defense has been. That said, I do account for the context. The bitter cold, the snowfall, the difficult visibility. I had trouble seeing the game clearly from my own home. The offensive line provided little protection. CJ was not at his sharpest. He was deprived of his primary weapons, missing his number one wide receiver and his top tight end. I was watching this game with family, which is why I didn't live stream it, and I often simplify explanations for those less familiar with football. I framed it as, he's missing his Tyreek Hill and his Travis Kelce, or he's missing his A.J. Brown and his Dallas Goedert, or he's missing his Puka Nacua. Those were his go-to players, his top two options. It's an incredibly tough scenario. Absent your top two targets, a subpar offensive line, and dreadful weather. So, while we can assert he needs to perform better, and while his play was poor enough to even spark a legitimate debate about a potential benching, I'm not advocating for that move, but I understand why the question was raised. We can simultaneously acknowledge how a bad situation was exacerbated and magnified by these compounding factors. This is the dual lens through which I'm currently viewing this performance. I do expect CJ Stroud to elevate his play in many of these challenging moments in the future. However, he has consistently been deprived of a stable, protective infrastructure. He hasn't enjoyed continuity due to injuries to key players like Nico Collins, setbacks with additions like Stephon Diggs, an ineffective running game, a problematic offensive line, and occasionally questionable coaching. He simply hasn't had the chance to build that essential rhythm and consistency. I am inherently more forgiving of a quarterback operating within such instability. I would be far less lenient with a Caleb Williams, who has Ben Johnson, a Bo Nix with Sean Payton, or a Drake May with an established system. Look at the spectacular catches Stephon Diggs made in this very game. CJ was playing without that caliber of consistent support, behind a bad line, with no ground game, facing dubious play calling, and amid an injury crisis. There was no opportunity for his brand of magic to surface. I comprehend the instinct to point to Davis Mills's performance as a contrasting example. While I believe that comparison can be a bit of a fool's errand, it undeniably underscores the vital importance of game management. It demonstrates that being a proficient game manager is frequently more valuable than being a sporadic game changer. I'm stating this unequivocally. When you construct a proper team with the right coaching staff, a balanced offensive attack featuring a running game, a solid defense, and capable receivers, you will secure far more victories through sound management than through sporadic moments of individual brilliance. Manage the game effectively, and you will win more frequently. It's that fundamental. This is the specific dimension I am eager to see CJ Stroud evolve and mature in. We witnessed a magnified case study of this need, amplified by all the adverse conditions previously discussed. The broader debate about potentially benching him to protect his confidence is a complex one. I vacillate on this topic. On one hand, you must be strategic in safeguarding a young quarterback's confidence. You must recognize they are often younger and less seasoned than we readily acknowledge. On the other hand, sports serve as the great equalizer. Performance dictates playing time. If you're not performing adequately, anyone can be subject to being replaced. No role is entirely secure. The halftime discussion among analysts was telling. One advocated for a benching, while another, Ryan Clark, delivered an impassioned rebuttal that felt intensely personal. Watching the game myself, perhaps due to my foundational belief in CJ's talent, my internal monologue was different. I was thinking, come on, CJ, you can steady this ship. I wasn't contemplating a benching because I was focused on his capability to reset after a disastrous first half. The script in my mind was, he'll have a conversation at halftime, warm up, gather himself with his coaches, and mentally reset. That was a bad first half. Shake it off. Thank the defense for keeping us in this. We have this. I'll speak with my key players, we'll pinpoint what's going wrong, and we'll focus. That's where true confidence should manifest. Confidence isn't merely a swaggering belief in one's own greatness. It's the assurance to have open, honest dialogues. Yeah, that was bad. I got tripped up. I was trying to force it. I can't make that decision again. You know what portion of the playbook I think we should lean on right now? It's X, Y, and Z. That's operational confidence. It's the confidence to handle not just a 2-minute drill to win, but also the confidence to approach your coaching staff mid-struggle and say, I'm not playing well right now. What's my get-out-of-jail-free card? What am I missing? Help me out here. That level of self-awareness and communication is critical. This reminds me of a recent clip featuring Nick Sirianni discussing Jalen Hurts, emphasizing the confidence required to communicate with a coach. This is the play I want to run. Tom Brady has echoed similar sentiments about his dialogue with offensive coordinators. This level of collaborative communication is essential for growth. We've seen it with iconic pairings like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, the image of them seated side by side on the bench, shoulder to shoulder, reviewing a tablet after a bad play, talking it through. Let's sit down and figure this out. It requires confidence and profound self-awareness to engage in that manner. I don't know if that specific element of confident, problem-solving communication is fully developed for CJ Stroud at this moment. I'm not asserting it's absent. I'm simply stating I cannot confirm its presence. If it is there, you don't bench him. If it isn't, then perhaps a temporary benching in that specific moment becomes a more plausible consideration. But these are simply my analytical perspectives. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What are your thoughts on CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans following this game? Do you believe a benching was warranted? Is the loss entirely on his shoulders? Let me know your analysis in the comment section below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, let's get some discussions started. Let's have some passionate debates. But ultimately, let's enjoy the discourse. Please consider subscribing. We are building an incredible community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become part of it. My goal is to create something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we're truly excited to participate in. I believe we're making significant progress. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it substantially helps with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much.